Okay. Well, I haven't done this before, to be honest, but I just finally figured out the tech on how to share my screen. And so I thought it'd be fun to kind of talk through a question I get every single week. And that is how to pick rugs for a new construction home and where to even begin, and like how to measure, how to balance your budget, how to pick moments, because it's super, super easy to accidentally put rugs everywhere or to miss out on some key spots. So, if you're here and this is working, will you just leave me a comment? Because, like I said, it's my first time. Okay. So, I just pulled this house plan off of the internet. So, it's from a builder, advancedhouseplans.com. And this is typically what we're working with when I work with clients who are designing their new home. So we have a great room, a couple bedrooms, dining room, kitchen. So I always like to start with the living room. I think it's really important to kind of think about layout. And I think that living room, bedroom, entry, those are really important moments to pick a rug. So I'm going to drag the teddy in here. This is one of our favorite ones at Amethyst. It is hand knotted. It's super earthy. And when you're looking at sizes, I want to think about where the furniture is going to be contained, basically. So let's see if I've got like a graphic I can do or like a block. Here we go. So, okay. There's a couple different ways to lay out a living room like this. I would do, I'm a huge fan of the two sofa thing. I really, really like that. Um, that's kind of a personal preference, but as you look at this plan, I'm not sure you really have room to do a two sofa thing because I like to line up the sofa like on the at least on the edge of the fireplace. And I'm not sure we're going to have 3 feet here. So I think this living room would actually be laid out better like this. So if you did a sofa, and then you could do some chairs. Oh, that's kind of big. Okay. I would do like more petite chairs. So I would do something like that's a little bit more open. Um, you could do 2 chairs like that. And then when you have this kind of a walkway, one layout I really like to do is kind of like this laid back accent chair or like chaise. So you can do that. I always use, there we go. So you do something like this. And then you could do cabinets or built in. You could do a tree right here. So I like to think about the furniture layout when I'm deciding what size of rug. So there's kind of 2 ways to do it. You could obviously measure like the overall room, but I really like to measure this right here. And I like to do 18 inches past the edge of the sofa. And then I want a minimum of 12 inches of wood floor. So, you know, what is this? 19 by 17 room. You probably need like a 12 by 15, maybe 10 by 14. Another way you could lay this out is you could do this corner chair situation where you kind of like that, and then you could do a little bit bigger chair. Okay. Okay, so you do it like that. So either way, I think this is an important size reference is this sofa. Now, sometimes I'll have people who just really love sectionals, and especially um, if that works for your family with kids and stuff. So if you did like an L-shaped sectional, this would potentially impact the rug size. You I would not do this. So I would stay contained. And then you're if you're kind of being thoughtful about your budget, then this is a good alternative. You can go a little smaller on the rug if you do a sectional. And then I would still do, a chair here. And I would put the front feet of the chair on the rug. And then let's grab a circle. And then you could do like a round coffee table and kind of keep that centered. So you could do that. We also, if you wanted to do a chaise, I think this size of rug still works. I usually go halfway or 2/3 through the chaise in that instance. But you don't want this one to be too small. And so I would kind of budget for this moment. Let's talk entry because that can get really complicated quick. So the biggest measurement I look for when I'm doing an entry is going to be this front door. And so if you are like, I want the rug to be at least the width of the front door. And then I wanted to kind of fill this space. There's a couple different trains of thought here. So you can kind of like float it in this space, especially if you're going to do like a console. This one doesn't really have room. Like I probably wouldn't add a console here. I would just have a killer light fixture and a rug and do a piece of art and then just like let that be the thing. The other thing you can do is sometimes if you have like double doors is you could actually kind of go more like this. This is not my favorite, but I think it's important that the rug is the width of the door, at least. So you could also do that option. For entry rugs, it can be kind of hard because the rugs we carry usually come like a 4x6, a 5x7.5, a 5x8, or a 6x9. We don't do it, or a 3.5 by 5.5. So we don't do a lot of 3x5s. But we can usually find a pretty good rug that way. Okay. And then moving on, it's kind of up to you about dining room rugs. If you are going to do a dining room rug, I love to do a rug that's like super flat that you could essentially sweep if you needed to. I think that just makes things really easy. And then we just want to be thoughtful about dining chairs on it. So, dining room spaces can be a little tricky because sometimes this area is like more narrow and long. So usually in the dining room, if you've got kind of this dining area off the kitchen like this, I will do an 8x10, a 7.5 by 9.5. If I really can, I love to do an 8.5 by 11.5. And then 9x12 sometimes work, but I just don't want to go past this wall. You know what I mean? So like I would not want the rug I don't want it to be like that. I want it to be like in here. And then I want the table and chairs to be on it. So let's just say you do something like this. Okay, so we're going to do a rectangular table. I'm kind of getting ahead of myself. But one thing I want to talk about is this idea of like cafeteria style seating. There is a time and a place for it. So I like to do it depending on the shape of the dining room. So like I would rather all the chairs stay on the rug. So cafeteria style is when you have no head chairs. Oh, it just keeps going there. Let's move this guy down here. There we go. Kind of wobbly, sloppy chairs because they're not straight. Okay, so this is cafeteria style. So you have no head chairs, but you do get the rug on like 12 to 18 inches on either side of the table. So I think that works really well if you're trying to maximize your table size. If you were to do something like round, then that'll affect the rug size as well. So you almost need to think about the furniture first. So like this is an example of round, and there we go. That I think feels really, really good. I do get people asking me about like square and round rugs. I just rarely do it. I maybe only have like 2 square rugs that I like. I think it depends on your aesthetic, but I usually will do a rectangular rug with round table, and I think it's just fine. Okay, now, so now you've got your living room rug, your entry rug, your dining room rug. So we don't need a lot to make an impact. So let's talk runner. So in this drawing, the island is pretty small. Okay, and it probably would be the size because you've got this entry right here. So for runners, a couple of different thoughts here. A lot of people feel like the runner needs to be smaller than the island. And I don't know. I don't think it does. I think it needs to be actually a little longer because when you pick a really, really pretty runner, which a lot of my clients do, they'll pick like something vintage, or we'll have a little bit more fun in the kitchen and we'll do something happier, a little more colorful. And like, I feel like this can just like be its own thing. It doesn't need to be so matchy. So we do something fun, and we do something fun, you want people to see it. So I say, let's just go a little bigger. And I think that's fine. A lot of our runners are like 2.5 by, I mean, they're really coming all lengths, like 7.5, 8.5. They come in 8, 10, 12, 14. A lot of different options. Most of them are 2.5 wide. So we have a couple that are 3 by 10s. If you feel like you've got at least, if you have 4 feet or more between your island and here, then you can also consider a different shape. So with a runner, like I said, usually comes in 2.5. You can do like a 3 foot by 10, which proportionally feels a little bit more like that. That always feels really good. Otherwise, if you have to pick a side, like if it's too skinny, I don't really like it if it's too skinny and it's just like floating in the middle because it's not really serving a purpose. You're not catching any water at this point. So I think you'd be better off going like this. You know what I mean? And having it near the sink. I think you got to kind of pick. So I typically don't do this. That's a bit much for me. But teach their own. So you can do that. If you feel like you've got a lot of space between here, I would just consider a different shape. So I would do something like this. And then this would probably be like a 3.5 by 5.5 or a 4 by 6. And that feels really good too. So we've kind of done it both ways. So those are your kitchen options. And then for bedroom, I'm going to put in, I'm going to put in this one. I like this one a lot. Okay. This rug I'm obsessed with. I have it in my shop. It is actually like more cool toned in person. And the only thing I don't like about this rug is this can feel a little Southwestern, but that's why it's so beautiful for a bedroom because the bed kind of goes over this spot and then you just see this beautiful border. I'm obsessed with the border. It's very happy. It's very tonal, and it's a really high quality hand auditable rug. So this is actually a really interesting bedroom layout. I typically would never put a bed on this wall, but I'm not going to put it here, and I'm not going to put it where that entrance is. And I did see someone on TikTok do something controversial, and she put her bed up against the windows, and she definitely pulled it off. But I don't know if I'm there with this. So Okay. It's kind of funny, actually. Okay, I really never do this, but I feel like you would have to. Okay, so we got our bed. I feel like this needs to be. It's actually gonna be smaller than that. Maybe more like that. Okay, I do not put the rug up against the wall, so I usually cheat it out to wherever your nightstands are. Um, and in this room, it's like my brain wants to see it like this more. Okay. Because you're not stepping off your bed right here. You're like stepping off your bed right here. So I think that's fine. And then I would do. I really like the chest style nightstands if you have the room. So the chest style are like 36 to 48 inches wide, and they're just a little more grand. I think it's really easy to accidentally buy a nightstand that's too small. Um, and so I like the chest style. This is like really, I would not put it on this wall, but I think with this house plan, you have to. I'm trying to think in the moment, but I think you have to. Um, so for rug, I would do this. And then in their renderings, they actually put two chairs. Let's see, if they did two chairs like this, which I thought was kind of just like intense. So I would do a soft angle if you wanted to do chairs. You could do that. Or the other thing I just really love right now is I love sofas in bedrooms. I think they're really practical and they're really comfy, cozy. So I just pop a sofa right in there, and I think that would be great. Um, you could also do a chaise, potentially. I don't know. You could. It depends on how big it is. It'd have to be like 66 inches or something. So you could do a chaise. I also love a sofa at the end of the bed. I think this is so grand. So you could do a sofa like this. And I would just do like a more petite sofa. Like I would do like a max depth of like 36. And I think that's magical as well. So anyways, you have options. If you wanted to do a dresser, you could do a dresser here or console with art. And then that would be off the rug. So I think that works really well. I'm going to put this back in here because I think you get a little more flow. You could do a bigger sofa here. But yeah, that's kind of how I do the bedroom. Sometimes bedrooms are kind of a budget moment too. And so if you are kind of being thoughtful about your budget in the bedroom, I would say go out to the edge of your nightstand, or you could do it like this. The only thing I hate to see people do is just like, it kind of breaks my heart if we go so small that like you can't even enjoy your rug. You know what I mean? And so like if budget reasons you feel like this is the size you want to spend money on, I would rather you pick a different material and go a little more casual. And then I would love to see you do a bigger rug. So you could do it with jute, you could do something synthetic, but I would love to see you guys focus on the bigger size rug in your bedroom and not like pick the rug you like. Don't pick the rug you love, the smaller size. But I'm just saying, like, it is kind of, a waste, in my unsolicited opinion, if you find a rug you love, but it's like so small you can't even see it. It's like, what's the point? You can cheat it out like this. It's not my favorite. You could though. So I'd say focus on the size in your bedroom and then pick a material that works. So anyways, let me know if you think this was helpful or fun. I really like doing stuff like this, but only if it's helpful. And I hope you guys have a great day.